everybody, and welcome again to this edition of Transcendent. Transcendent is the weekly Facebook Live broadcast of San Antonio in black, white, and brown, also known as SABWB. What is SABWB? Thank you for asking. SABWB is a leadership space where influencers, biblical worldview influencers and leaders from every race, every position, and every perspective come together for two main purposes. One is to build trust. We know that we will work no further with each other than we trust one another. So building trust is a must. Secondly, we collaborate on the value and the implementation of principles that shape the culture. There's a couple of operative thoughts there. Principles is fixed law. It is a fixed pattern of actions that equals predictable results. In the culture, the way we do life in San Antonio, we should be, and we actually are a principle driven culture. Sometimes we just don't know what those principles are, but we should know. We should be consciously collaborating on the value and the implementation of principles that help shape the culture of our city into what we, the citizens, desire it to be. This line that opens up our documents, our forming documents of this nation, these words, "we the people," is a powerful, powerful three words, because it lays responsibility not on the hands or the shoulders of an elite few, but the people who have decided that they would keep themselves well informed. It's got a phone call. The danger of doing this on your phone is when you get a phone call, you get interrupted. So an informed people is the one that is able to nurture and guide a healthy society. An uninformed people can't. The society will unravel around them, and power will recede into the hands and upon the shoulders of very few. You and I can't let that happen. We let it happen. We prevent it from happening by consciously working together to shape our culture. That's what SABWB is, a leadership space. And we're having a conference this coming week. We have an annual conference every year, the weekend after Mother's Day. This week is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll kick off Thursday night with what I call a cross-cultural concert. I'm sure you've never been here. Well, I can't say I'm sure. It's more than likely that you've not been in a setting where you've seen Jesus worshipped from flamenco in the flamenco dance, and Jesus worshipped in folklorio, Jesus worshipped in spoken word, in rap, in the black gospel sound, in country, in contemporary Christian music, all under the same roof in the same night. 15 minutes. So I told the guys, the men and women that are doing the concert, you got to come in hot. You don't have a build-up time. You got to come in spitting flames. So that's going to be an experience. Doors open at 5:30. Concert starts at 6 o'clock. And there'll be a food truck there. One's Hot Foods. If you've not heard of it, you should have. Food truck is going to be in the parking lot, and after the concert is over, you can get some food at One's Hot Foods and take it over to the plaza. Well lit, beautiful place on the grounds there at 3806 Sunshine Ranch Road, and eat and fellowship and talk about what you just experienced in the concert. Then the next day, Friday, we have to get busy. We got to get busy building an echo chamber of truth. We're far behind the world in this, where they have taken the pillars of influence in the culture: sports, entertainment, the church, education, business, law, politics, and they have saturated their message in all of those pillars of influence. And you hear it from everywhere. That's called an echo chamber. And you hear almost the same phraseology. Many times, I'll show an example of it on Friday when we seek to build our own echo chamber around certain issues. One of the issues that we need to build an echo chamber around is the issue of education. I have a guest on with me tonight who I heard make a presentation yesterday at the Northeast Independent School District. You, I don't want to start talking about it before we start talking about it. But if you and I don't take some action, we are already very far behind. If we don't take purposeful, aggressive action, power, even more of it, to determine the kind of culture and destiny we want as a people, will slip out of our hands and again be gathered into the hands of a very few people who know how to manipulate a system, and the people manipulating the system will consequently manipulate you. You will be manipulated, and it's already happening. You'll see it in our conversation tonight. So that echo chamber on Friday must be built around the educational issue. It must be built around what is happening with Israel and Hamas. What does that mean biblically? Where does our eschatology fall into all of that? Um, Built around what happens when the switch is flipped from fiat currency, that's dollars and cents, to digital. What does that mean for you? Is that the mark of the beast? Should we all gather our powdered food and head for the hill country and kind of wait this thing out and put your little paint on your face and weeds on your head and all that stuff? Or is there another opportunity that perhaps we could take advantage of if we knew? If we knew, knowledge is power. Um, so we need to gain some knowledge. It's going to happen on Friday. And what was formerly a top secret film, the Israeli Defense Forces, when they retaliated for Hamas's brutality on October 7th, they captured the the GoPros and the vest cams that those terrorists came into the communities. They're called kibbutzim, or kibbutz is a single, plural is kibbutzim. And what they did when they got there, the violence, the savagery, the butchery. They they wore the GoPros and vest cams because they wanted to capture the atrocities that they committed against Israelis. Even their phone records were captured. The phone records uh, where they called their parents, these young men from in Hamas calling their parents, celebrating. You'll hear it, celebrating over the fact that they have taken Israeli lives, and hear their parents cry with joy that their children has killed Israelis. I can say all of that, but you need to see it for yourself. And when you see that, and you see in the backdrop of that, at Duke University, for example, students at the graduation got up and walked out because Jerry Seinfeld, who is Jewish, was speaking. They got up and walked out because he was Jewish. Not the majority of them, but a good number of them got up and walked out because their speaker was Jewish. That is happening in 21st century American school campuses, and we have to ask the question why. So here we are. We're facing this stuff, and either we fold our hands and stick our proverbial heads in the sand, as the ostriches claimed to do. I always say that when your head is in the ground, there's another part of your derriere that's in plain view. so so we need to take some smarts and lift our heads up, look around, be aware, and take necessary action to perpetuate the kind of culture that we want our children and our grandchildren to grow up. Now, my children are all grown, but they're having children. My grandchildren have to grow up here. So do yours, your generations have to grow up here. And we cannot leave the nature of what that culture will look like into the hands of very few people. So we got some stuff to do tonight. We got some work to do. With regard to that, let me just get a couple of housekeeping things out of the way for you. You can support SABWB a number of ways. There may be, in fact, you see them on the screen. There's a number of ways you can support us. You can do us on Cash App at $SABWB. You can find us on Venmo at SABWB. You can go to our website and click on the donate button. You can partner with us on the website as well. Partnerships is what makes us have the capacity and the ability to know what financial flow is going to look like from month to month, and we can budget and be better stewards than periodic gifts. However, both of them are very much appreciated. In fact, if I didn't get a periodic gift like the one that I received, which is now up on our website for matching a single donor. Some of you know the story, but I'm just going to tell it because it's such a miracle. I, I had gotten donations from monthly partners in my hands. They came, put them in my hands on a Sunday. So I went to the mailbox, not the mailbox, but the bank on Monday to put in the $25 that the person had given me, cash. I was going to put it in our SABWB account. And as we're pulling in, the Holy Spirit said, in my heart, just a witness in my heart, a little thought. When someone says the Holy Spirit said, they don't generally mean audibly in their ear saying. They're talking about an impression, just an impression, a strong impression inside. And when you've had enough of those impressions, you know when it's you and you know when it's not you. So the Holy Spirit impressed my heart to go public with it. It was like between 5 and 6 in the evening. So I argued with this little voice inside saying, people are driving home. Nobody's even going to be on their phones. And it's only $25. And so why should I go through the effort of going on this live and doing, kind of arguing internally with divine guidance? Thankfully, that argument didn't last long, and I conceded. So I went live with it. And while I was going live, I got a text. Clearly couldn't answer it while doing the live, but afterwards I answered the text, and it was a donor who had seen me doing that. In fact, the donor said they had grabbed their phone, they were on the way out of the house, they saw me on, and they clicked. And they only got the last part of what I was saying. What I was saying was that the conference is coming up. There's a $20,000 budget to cover it, and we had about 1,000 in the account, and uh, I needed partners to come alongside and do all that. That donor heard only the backside of that. They texted me and said, I heard you say that you needed $20K for your conference. And I said, yes, I do, and asked the donor to pray with me that the Lord would touch different people's hearts and let them give. And the donor said, I have it. I'll give. They underwrote the conference entirely and permitted us to use their gift as a matching challenge gift. So everything that you give up to $20,000, whatever amount, a portion of that, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, whatever portion, is doubled up to 20,000. Now, who would have thought that a $25 deposit in drive time would have produced that? Just as I'm talking to you tonight, some of your hearts may be touched, and you can say, "Yeah, well, I'll double. I'll be the one who matches it." May God bless you to do so. You further our cause to make this city, to bring to your awareness in this city, the kinds of people like our guest tonight and others who are working to make sure that the culture of our city is everything that it should be, and to keep away from the culture of our city those things that too often become restrictive and confining and controlling. It will happen if you don't do anything. So you must do something. First thing you need to do is come to the conference. And then secondly, as God puts it on your heart, support it. That challenge gift is out there. You might be the person who says, yeah, I can do that. Or the persons who can say, I can take some big swings at it. Please do so by one of these. Or you can write a check too. I often tease a friend of mine. I say, if you can write a check if you're over 35, because the only 35s is the only ones writing checks these days. But they still spend. They still do their deal. So you can write a check to SABWB, and mail it to 8023 Vantage Drive, 8023 Vantage Drive, San Antonio 78230. Suite 313. Suite 313. All right, so that's kind of the housekeeping stuff. I finished my first book. It's called In the Footprints of a Prophet. In fact, I was watching tonight. He's 92 years old. He went home to be with the Lord just a couple of days ago. The subject of my book is now with the Lord, whom he served so valiantly in the nation of Jamaica and across the nations of the world. You see the graphic on the screen. In the Footprints of a Prophet is the title of that book. I highly encourage you to get it. I'm going to be building some leadership stuff out of it, leadership course out of it, because his life is exemplary in many ways. He's a family man, had 8 kids, never cheated on his wife, upheld integrity in God, sent from a poor part of Jamaica, yet he sent 5 of his 8 children to college at the same time. Just one incredible life of faith, and you'll be encouraged by it. Your purchase of it also, of course, will help fuel ministry here. You get them from us. You can get them at Barnes and Nobles, and you can get them on Amazon, but they take their cut before they give it to you. So you can just get it from us first by doing that QR code. $25 gets you a copy of my first book. I have 2 more that I'll write, but this is the first of the 3. I may be beyond 3, but I know about 3, and one of the 3 is written. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about how do we get here. First of all, I want to say we have declined as a nation in many ways, but certainly in one area is in the area of education. Just yesterday, I met some warriors over at NEISD. They were there, Pastor Richard Vega from Houston, Texas, Pastor Luis Cabrera from RGV. I learned that term hanging around these guys, RGV. RGV is the Rio Grande Valley. And these both Hispanic brothers have seen the decline in the educational environment where Black and brown students are concerned. Actually, the decline has affected every student. The environment has affected every student. The environments, some more some than others are affected by it. So they've risen up to begin to take a look at what is in the school curriculum. I think if anything came out of COVID that's a plus, that is, in terms of it being eye-opening, was the fact that there were materials being used to teach in schools that was diametrically opposed to what was being taught around the kitchen table. And it has created a chasm, a hostile separation at best, almost an unbreachable chasm at worst, between the young person that is in high school or college and the family that they came from. The educational process was not designed to rip families apart. But Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, did say that the philosophy in the classroom in one generation would be the philosophy of government in the next. He understood the methodology of training a mind today for leadership tomorrow. And you and I have the responsibility to make sure that that educational process does not breach the chasm between the kitchen table and their desk in their classroom. But right now, it has done so to a degree. I can't tell you how devastating our passivity has been both to us and to our children. But I'm glad to tell you that parents are waking up. And yesterday, along with Pastor Richard Vega and Pastor Luis Cabrera and Pastor Ben Morales here in the city of San Antonio with Jubilee Outreach, and some friends of mine from Fortress Church, used to be Fortress Church, it changed its name recently, but pastors are awakening to the reality they have to begin to address this stuff. But other people, like my guest tonight, have been in this fight a long time. She actually Jacqueline, you can correct me later if I make a mistake here, but ran, I think, for a seat on the school board, and we'll talk about that. Her name is Jacqueline Klein. She made a presentation yesterday concerning the voting that recently took place in the NEISD school district. I was shocked. I still am. I still am. Today, as recently as, no, it was yesterday. Or was it today? It was today where the verification of the vote took place. It was today. So San Antonio and around the world, please join me as I welcome into this conversation Jacqueline Klein. Jacqueline, thanks for being on with me tonight.
Thank you, Bishop Flowers, for having me. You have touched on so many things. I feel like we could talk at length about just the capture of minds that's happening right now in our public
Mm-hmm.
schools. When I was running, I had so many conversations with people on their front doorsteps about how the capture of these children's minds is happening
Mm-hmm.
long before they get to these college campuses. They are
Yes.
indoctrinated before they ever set foot at a college or university, and really where it's starting is right here in our communities. And so you talked about burying your head in the sand. I like to say you can search for the truth or you can bury your head in the sand, but both require digging.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so, we always have our shovels ready because we are
Mm.
definitely in search of the truth.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I did run recently for NEISD School Board. I had actually run in 2022. This is my second, run at the seat. I lost by a very narrow 72 votes back in 2022. And then the incumbent who I lost to passed away in August. And so the seat had actually been vacant for the entire school year because of a
Mm.
very deep political divide and an inability to bridge that gap on behalf of board leadership this year. So I was part of a
And let me
special
back up.
election.
Let me back up here just a quick minute
Yes, sir.
and ask you this: Why did you? Why was education? Why was the school board? Why is that important to you?
Well, for a number of reasons, I had a situation with one of my sons when they were actually enrolled in NEISD. It was a personal safety issue that we encountered, where I really found that administration was not trying to protect students. They weren't working in the interest of families,
Sure.
and so for that reason, I actually we had moved him to another campus, and then ultimately withdrew the boys from NEISD when they tried to put him back on the same campus where that trauma had happened the
Okay.
following year. And so I knew that as a very capable and driven person, if something like that was happening or did happen to me and my family, that it was probably happening to other people as
Mm-hmm.
well. And then, of course, as you mentioned, COVID, when COVID happened and school came into our living rooms, all of a sudden it was a big
Yeah.
shock.
Yeah.
What are they being taught? How are they being taught?
Mm-hmm.
Are they learning anything? And then
Mm-hmm.
even more than that, when the time came after that summer to go back into school and the schools were remaining closed because of the teachers unions not wanting to let the kids come back, and then the
Yeah.
forced masking and the vax mandates. And I think a lot of parents really realized that the district wasn't looking at them as partners. It wasn't respecting their moral right, or their right to the moral and
Mm-hmm.
educational direction of their children's upbringing. I think that we really realized that things had gotten significantly out of hand. I didn't even know the school board existed until they decided that they didn't want to let our kids come back to school, which
Wow.
I think was one of the most detrimental things that happened during COVID, was
Absolutely.
the loss of that social engagement, the learning losses that they suffered. It was a real wake up call for parents that I think we had arrived at a place where apathy had really cost us, because we were very trusting
Yeah.
and everybody just kind of believed that
And
your
that was the
district wants
basis
the
of the
best.
apathy, because
Absolutely.
what was being taught previously in the public school system, the parents could trust that. They could trust that it was not so far removed from their own moral sets. It was not far removed from their own principles that guided their households. But our sleep in that apathetic state caused the kitchen table and the desk to drift further and further apart. And by the time COVID came along, we found out, wow, they've drifted way out in the middle of a tossed ocean, and we have no idea about what they're contending with. But as you said, COVID brought the school into the living room, and we found out that those differences could not stand. So the reason we were there at NEISD just the other day, me and the group that included you, was because of pornographic material that is now being put forth as educational material.
That
But
was absolutely shocking.
yeah,
I knew that you guys were going to be there. I had no idea what you were going to say, and my jaw was on the floor. I
yeah,
did not
yeah.
believe that our kids have access to that
Middle
kind
school,
of material.
middle
Yes.
school and high school
11
kids.
year olds. Yes.
Yes, absolutely insane. But I think as the board member cried out yesterday, I noted one thing. She was impassioned about her desire to not want to have those books remain in the
Mhm.
district, but she was the only one also that voiced any disgust for the things that they were hearing. Those were
I,
excerpts from books that are currently in every school district.
I don't know if you went back and saw any of that YouTube or that live stream. At the very end of that meeting, uh, Trustee Hilliard, Steve Hilliard, who's been a wonderful defender of parental rights and children's innocence and education, he made a motion as one of his last business matters before he stepped down from the dais that they do a review of the books based on what they had heard last night. And the other trustee, Mr. Byer, was the only trustee who voted against it. He voted no.
Mm,
And he ran
yeah.
on a slate with the other four ladies who won. And that's who's officially in charge of Northeast ISD at this point.
So his voice with the four ladies is one is five. That's a
Yes.
majority.
Yes.
But the good thing is they probably don't know this because we didn't express it. But they'll be sued if they don't. And
Yes.
the law firms that backs them up is willing to take the court case
Mhm.
all the way to Supreme Court if necessary.
Yes.
And
And they
that's
actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, they campaigned on the books. Nobody was talking about the
mhm,
books. They were the ones at
right.
the polls going, we don't want to ban books, and these right wing
Hmm.
extremists that want to ban books, and they were the ones who really brought the books into the conversation.
Hmm.
And I had done a social media post earlier today where I said, you know what, if they pick the battle, then a battle they shall have, because this
Yes.
is disgusting. It's wicked.
But you were there, and I noticed the battery on my phone is running out, so I'm going to have to
We'll make it quick.
speed talk with you here. You were there yesterday, and I was shocked by what you presented. It had to do with the results of the vote that was recently taken in NEISD. Can you tell us? Can you can you share? And I know you have some specific examples tonight to share the 3,000 plus mail-in votes at a school board level that
Yes.
targeted. It seems to me that it targeted Steve Hilliard's seat
Yes.
to move him off of that board so that the door could be open for the stuff like we were presenting to persist
Yes.
on the
Yes.
campuses. Please tell us about that.
I can actually show you. I had pulled up the vote totals. So if they'll switch over here, let me see if I have them here. So we, let's see, Steve's seat happens to be this one right here. You can see the trustee place 6 for Northeast ISD.
Hmm.
In Steve's election, the absentee votes, there were, it looks like there were a total of 400 mail-in votes. So that wasn't
400 mail-in votes
district-wide.
for a school board.
Yes. Yes. And
That
so
that's
I'm sorry,
unheard
what did you
of.
say? Yes. And so somebody had posted, and I mean, you look at some of these votes that were being cast. So someone had posted in one of our groups about, it was some screens. Oh, did I end up with a double screen here? What did I do wrong?
No, you're good.
Okay, so someone had posted some of the screenshots of the voters that had voted in that election, and
Hmm.
there were out of state voters. There were people who, instead of their permanent home address, they had email addresses. And so I started looking at the voters that were in that post, and among them, there were some people uh, that one couple in particular, this Alexander Shulman and this Zebo Zakir, it we actually found, looking through the voter registration. So we can look at um, voter kind of registration and vote history. Oh, of course, I lost him. We can look at that and
Hmm.
see whether or not,
There it is, right
if
there.
you look down here, it shows under his primary address that he has moved. And there is, so when you move and you put in a permanent change of address, a mail-in ballot is no longer supposed to be mailed to that address. The elections administrator is supposed to either not mail it or get it back return mail.
Hmm.
Now, there's another great resource. It's called IV3, and it is part of True the Vote, that you can sign up. You can look up people by their name, by their
Hmm.
address, and it shows here that back in November of 2023, they put in a permanent address change, and they have moved to South Carolina. They are actually military. We tracked them down, gave them a phone call. Alexander is a pharmacist working in South Carolina, where they actually own a property, and that's where they've moved. And they did in fact vote in this election. They were able to get their ballot forwarded to them at that address, which they are not supposed to be able to do, and somehow managed to vote in this election. And when I went knocking doors, there were a lot of people in this district that had no idea that this election was happening. And so how somebody in South Carolina knew about it and knew to vote and knew to mail that back was pretty astounding. And
Yes.
so I decided to look through some of the other names that they had shared and this is in Steve's district in particular. There was another individual, his name is Howard Gill. He had an out of state address. He had changed his permanent address in July of 2021. And there were
So he was
two.
not supposed to get a mail-in ballot.
No, he should not have gotten a ballot, and there were actually two ballots cast for him, one in state, one out of state. There was another individual, William Galbraith. He voted on both April 30th and May 4th. One's from an out of state address in Virginia, and one's from an address here in San Antonio. Um, there were
And
some
this
other
is just from
people.
a sampling of
Yes,
the votes that came in Steve's district.
this was from maybe, I would say, 75 votes tops, that came out of Steve's district. You had a couple, or I guess, and I don't know if they're partners, business partners, Robert Dallender and John Goodman. They voted from, instead of having a permanent address on the daily mass that we get from the elections department,
Hmm.
instead of having a physical address, they had email addresses. They didn't even have they sold their San Antonio home years ago. There was a couple, and this one was actually very interesting. This was kind of my favorite curiosity. A couple, Melissa and Ruben Arredondo, they owned a home on Pinnacle Drive. They actually sold that home to a family friend of mine. My mother's, one of her friends,
Mm.
that
Mm.
so we know that as of March 30th, that house
They were
was,
not in that home. Yeah.
and they have voted from that address twice. That house has been in receivership. It is vacant. I have no idea. Apparently, you can call the elections office and request to have your mail-in ballot mailed to another address. And so something that we are going to have to do now, obviously, I don't know that there's anything we can do to affect the outcome in this election, but to be very vigilant going forward.
There's got to be, Jacqueline, there's got to be.
Yes, we can request the addresses from elections where
absolutely,
they were.
you can't let a wrong like that go unanswered, because
Right.
to do so is to lose all power you have as a citizen.
Correct.
To make legitimate change based on your own understanding of the issues. Thank you. Based on your understanding of the issues, and somebody else can rob that from you. And it will happen, it will continue to happen until and unless we become an educated public that is willing to be proactive in these things like you were on Tuesday.
Yes.
Because
one of the
my battle
fears
is,
that I have, one of the fears I have is that we aren't going to be able to vote our way out of this.
yes.
If they
yes.
have figured this out, that yes. So we need to start cleaning up the voter rolls.
So we have got to have a way of recourse. This is why we have to create this echo chamber. I'm saying to all of you listening right now, I don't want to stop this conversation with Jacqueline, but I don't want my phone to cut off in the middle of our interview.
That's okay.
Either.
We can do this again.
Yes, on Friday, 3806 Sunshine Ranch Road. We start at 9 o'clock in the morning. Take a PTO, paid time off. This is worth it for you, to put your mind together with others to see how an echo chamber of truth can be created around these issues, to keep those who want to siphon your voting power out of your hands and make it look legal when in fact it is very crooked, and sap away from you the power that you're given as a citizen to make the kind of change that you want to make in the culture. That vote has to be protected. Jacqueline, I can't thank you enough. We will have to do this again because there's just too much information to leave on the table.
Got a lot to say.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for coming on. We'll do it again soon. So guys, listen, my phone is about running out of juice here, and I just wanted to lastly say to you tonight, you and I cannot afford. I was thinking earlier today, passivity could be the silver bullet that kills us if we do nothing. There is a saying that all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing, good men, people, to do nothing. Passivity is a killer, and it has gotten us where we are today. Let's make the decision that we're no longer going to be passive. Let's start building that echo chamber. Friday morning, go to our website, sabwb.org, register for free. Come and put your heart and mind together with people of like mind who want to see real change happen in our city for the better. Thursday night, don't miss the concert. Friday, we're going to work together. And then Saturday, there's a group of friends, old friends of mine, that have come back together. They're wonderful facilitators in an organization called Cielo Vista, which takes low rope courses and challenges. They're going to break our attendees up on the grounds outside. It's going to be a beautiful day, supposedly weather-wise, and have us work through some things together. You don't know your other attendee, but you're going to have to get to know them, get to trust them, get to work with them, so we can build that spirit out of the conference as we move forward in our city. This is a significant year. Let's not let it pass by without us giving our best effort to make the most out of this wonderful year ahead. All right, thanks for joining us tonight. I'll see you next Tuesday for Transcendent. God bless you. Bye-bye now. Thank you, Jacqueline. Appreciate it so much.